Hi everybody and welcome back to the channel. Today I have a different video because I had a lot of questions about kitchen installations, worktop installations. I want to do a series of few videos where I'm gonna present you the tools, the jigs. I'm gonna tell you what mistakes people does, because I have a lot of questions where people are asking me, well, I have used this jig and it doesn't work, something is wrong, the jig is wrong, and so on. Let me tell you that the jigs are not wrong. All the jigs that you can buy in the shop, they are good. The problem is, if you are not careful when you use them and not read the instruction properly, you might end up putting the jig the other way around, and then it's resulting obviously a wrong cut, and then you're gonna get disappointed and they say, oh, it's too hard, it's too difficult, I'm not gonna do it. So this is where people are getting things a little bit wrong or confused. They do mistakes, and don't get me wrong, we all do mistakes, we all did, and we all gonna do mistakes in future. So the point is that you don't have to get discouraged. It's a very simple process. It's very simple to work with these jigs, but the problem is people are doing a small mistakes and then they get discouraged and they say, no, I'm not going to do it, it's too complicated. So I'm going to present you the tools, I'm going to present you the jigs, and then I'm going to make few shorter videos, let's say, about how to do a mitre joining, like a mitre cut. So basically when you join two worktops together on a 90 degrees, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do the same joint on the 90 when one of the walls is out, so you don't have a 90-degree corner. This is the biggest problem, where you don't have a 90-degree corner, and it's very often you're not going to get a corner that is 90 degree. I'm going to do that. I'm going to show you how to do, let's say, grooves for the drainer. I'm going to show you how to do an under-mounted sink, which is, I think, is the most complex job that you can do, obviously, with a kitchen installation. I mean, pretty much is the most complex job that you can do, because you have to be very careful, especially when you work with, let's say, with one worktop that it costs £1,000 or €1,000. You know, you don't want to do mistakes, because if you do a mistake when you cut the under sink, then when you cut the sink which sits under and you do a mistake, then pretty much the worktop has to be replaced. So that's going to be an expensive mistake. So yeah, in terms of tools, now let me first tell you what worktops you can do with these jigs and these tools. So I did work as a kitchen installer for many years, not just kitchens, but I did a lot of kitchen installations, as you can probably see on my channel. So one and the most used worktop is the laminate worktop. Is the cheapest and the easiest to work with. So it's the laminate worktop. On the second place, you will get solid wood worktops, either beech, walnut, or oak. You get those. The third place, I think these days, you will get compact laminate, which is a 12mm worktop. Very, very hard, very difficult to cut. Not difficult, but very hard to cut. So that compact laminate is a type of material that is compressed and is hard. Whatever blade you're gonna use, you have to throw it away after that job. You can't use it anymore, because that worktop will destroy everything you throw on it. The router cutter, the blade, so use cheaper blades if possible, because after that you can't use them anymore. I did try to get different blades, different cutters to work better with that material. I couldn't get any. I mean, I couldn't get anything that will be reasonable in price to obviously be so you can buy it. There's no point spending, I don't know, £100 per one blade when you can, spend maybe £10 and throw the blade away. And everywhere I looked, they seems to recommend blades for wood. So it's exactly what I use. Blades for wood, cut, do the job, and throw the blade away, because you can't use it. Then on the fourth place, you get composite worktops. So composite worktops, either 20, 25 or 30 mil, is a resin based material, you cut them, you clean the edge with the router, you glue them together, and then you sand them down with a sander, and you get a seamless look. So you're not going to see the joint in the worktops. Very, very popular, that type of worktop. On a fifth place, you get Korean, which is pretty much the same. It's a bit more expensive, but it's pretty much the same. It's easier to work with Korean than with the composite, but it's also more expensive, like I said. So the same process, you cut it, you clean the edge, or you do a 90-degree cut, and you join them together, and you know, sand them, and there's no seam, there's no joint anymore. So on the sixth place is Maxtop. So Maxtop is a combination between plastic and stone. When I mean stone, I mean quartz. So you have 12 millimeters of quartz on top, and you have the rest plastic. So for that, you have to use a stone cutting blade, install it in the circular saw. You have to use a diamond cutter for the router. You have to drill the corners, cut them, you know, use this, and so on. So they are not that popular because they're not cheap, and this is not easy to work with them. But I do install them in few occasions. They look great, by the way, they look great, but they are not that popular, I think, because of the price, and because of the you know, everything you have to do to actually install them. Yeah, so I haven't been working with granite, you know, ceramic, stone, marble, and something like that, because they are done in a workshop, polished, and they just get installed. So we're talking about usual worktops that you can actually install them and do everything that they need to be done on site. Now let me go through tools, what tools we're gonna need, then I'm gonna explain what jigs we're gonna need. So first of all, you need a circular saw, or in my case, a planche saw. This one, obviously, if you are not familiar with what a planche saw is a saw that does planche cuts. You know, it's easy to do a planche cut. This is an old, I think it's been, you know, I had this for like 10, 11 years, still going strong. All I did is just replace the brushes. No, sorry, I was lying, not 11 years, I think it's 9 years. 9 years since I had this, and it's still going strong. All I did, I just replaced the brushes. If you are not familiar, they have a guide rail that this sits on the guard rail, and you do nice and straight cuts. You don't have to own one of these. A circular saw, battery one or a normal one will do it. It's just that sometime the finish won't be as good as this one. So for me, this is something that I really need to have when I do kitchen installation. I'm not gonna talk about brands. This is why I choose 3 different ones, the 3 different brands. So I'm not in love with one brand. None of them are paying me. This is not sponsored video. None of them are paying me to say good things or bad things about them. I want to have 3 different ones because I don't want to look like, oh, I love this more than I love that. In my case, I love a tool that does the work that, you know, needs to do. It does last, you know, so it doesn't have to be replaced every year or every 2 years, and it does perform well. I mean, in this case, chippings, this one has been very reliable. So yeah, everything that does work for you and it lasts is a good tool. So obviously depending what kind of job you do. So a circular saw, and then you will need a router. This one I had it for about 11-12 years, and it's still going strong, and it did cut thousands, hundreds, maybe thousands of worktops. Stone, wood, solid wood, compact laminate, everything. To be fair, this one got abused and is still going strong. So for the price that I paid when I bought it, you know, I'm happy. I'm over the moon with this. Then if you have a palm router or a trimmer, that's gonna help with when you doing the edging on the worktop, just to, cut it and have it nice. If you don't have one, it's fine. I started doing kitchens without having one, so I bought this after after a while. You can obviously trim edges and do what you do with this by hand. Just obviously it won't be as clean and it won't be as fast as this, but it can be done. Okay, let's put this down now and let me present you the jigs. So obviously I'm not gonna tell you you need tape measure, you need pencil and so on, because I guess it's quite obvious that you're gonna need those stuff. So I'm gonna show you the main tools that you're gonna use to install kitchens. I'm not gonna say that you need a dust extraction and so on, but this circular saw router, it's something that you definitely need. So these are not an option. This is an option, these two are not an option. Okay, let's put them down and present you the jigs. Okay, so let me present you the jigs that I was using in all these years, and I will present them the way that I use them the most. So this is my #1 jig. It doesn't have to be the same brand. I mean, they don't make too much difference as long as this jig is made from a solid or a compact material, not MDF. I mean, MDF is okay, but after a while, it's not as accurate as this. This doesn't get any usage or anything like that's gonna affect the quality of cut. So this goes from 250 to 700, that being obviously the width of the worktops. 616 and 600 being the most common worktops that I used to work in UK with. And these are for the clamps, so for the worktop bolts. You put them underneath the worktop and then you tighten the worktops together and you use glue or silicone or depending on the worktop. So this is my #1 jig that I'm using, and I was telling you the worktop needs to have a 30mm guide bush because that will run into these channels. So that's gonna make sure that you do a nice and perfect cut. From time to time you have to change this guide bush because it's get heated and then it will get slimmer, and then you'll find out that your cut is not always perfect. So yeah, keep an eye on that. Now, this one is a bit similar with the first one. This is a compact laminate jig. So this is designed for the compact laminate worktop. I'll be honest with you, I only use it once. I don't like to do this cut on a compact laminate. I like to just clean this edge with a router and just butt them into each other and use the clamps and so on. I found it sometimes very hard to cut these worktops. I remember once using a biscuit jointer, and because it was that hard to cut, the biscuit jointer got discalibrated and the blade almost went all the way through the actual face of the worktop. Imagine you have 12mm and then the biscuit is 4mm, so you're only gonna have left like, you're gonna have like 4mm on either side. So I think that went like 2mm up, it was just 2mm left. So when you do a mistake like that, I mean, it's not necessarily a mistake because it's not your fault that the tool obviously got discalibrated. You have female and male cut. When something happened in the female cut, most of the time that worktop cannot be used anymore and you have to get a new one. So I like to do things as simple as possible, and I just put them, just butt them into each other. Never had a problem, never had anything asking, well, why is like that and it's not like that, So in the end of the day, if you clean your worktop with the router, you should have a very nice joint which is almost invisible, especially with this type of worktops, is almost invisible. So you shouldn't have a problem if you are not using this jig and you just do a straight line, as long as obviously it's nice and tight and you don't see a gap that you'll have to fill with, you know, silicone or whatever. So I just wanted to say that, you know, but if you need it, they are on the market, you can buy them. Otherwise you can probably use the other one that I just showed you before. Now, my second worktop, sorry. Okay, so my second jig that I'm using is this. So you have a straight line, for what I said earlier, to clean the worktop, and you have a lot of radiuses, you know, curves, radiuses, bolts, and so on. This also works great when you have to do an undermounted sink, where you choose your radius, you do your corners, and then you move the jig and you cut in between the radiuses, the corners. The problem with that is you have to move the jig 8 times, and you have to be careful, and you have to do measurements, and you have to be very, very careful. And depending what worktop you work with, you know, some of them can be sanded, some of them cannot be sanded, and some of them go a lot easier to sand than others. But, you know, this is my second in preference, yeah. But anyway, this is my second jig in terms of usage. Now, my third jig in terms of using is this. Yeah. So this is a drainer grooves jig. You can see on the back here, there are 3 add-ons, sides and middle. They are designed to keep the worktop stable and not be flimsy and not be moving when you use your router. And if you look at it, they are already angled. So these add-ons on the back are already in an angle. So that means when you gonna router your grooves, they are already gonna be obviously falling down towards the sink because the water needs to drain. Yeah, this is something that I use very, very often. Okay, so this is another jig that I want to show you. This is designed for under-mounted sink. You will see that most of the time you won't be able to just put it on, cut it, and then use the sink, because they are not all the same. Most of the time you will see that you have to cut, put the jig in place, cut this half, and then move this side slightly in or out, because they are not all the same. But there's obviously just one movement that you have to do. So it's pretty straightforward. And then this is an add-on piece. It's just a support piece to actually support your router from tilting this way, because that's going to obviously ruin your cut. And sometimes I like to build my own jigs. If I find an under-mounted sink that the corners are quite square, I like to take a piece of panel or end panel, whatever is left, cut it. It's bigger to obviously accommodate the guide bush. With the experience, you will find out that the cutter is cutting this many millimeters from the bush, from the guide bush, this many millimeters from the actually line, from the actually jig. So you will be able to calculate and make your own jig. I like to do that when the corners are pretty straight, so they don't have a big curve in it, because it's easy to do that jig and it's easy to put it on, do 3-4 cuts depending on the thickness of the worktop and material, and then that's it, you're done. Instead of using this and move it 8 times. But when the curve or the radius is bigger, and you need to do that perfect, because everything that you have in your jig will actually be transferred into the worktop. So if you want that to be perfect, and you don't have to obviously do many sanding, I like to choose this, depending obviously the material and depending of all these things. Even if with this and you have to move it 8 times, it won't take you longer than an hour to do so. So by the time that you take a piece of material, do all the measurements, cut it, sand it, make sure this is perfect, do the cut, you won't be far off that out. So it is a bit less, but not a lot. So yeah, that's something that obviously you will find out with experience, and then is something that you're gonna decide on the spot. So pretty much this is everything about the tools and the jigs. And I'm gonna do a couple of videos where I'm gonna show you how we're gonna use these jigs, how we're gonna do a joint or 90-degree joint, how we're doing a joint if the walls are not square, how we're gonna do a drainer, you know, drainer grooves, how we do an undermounted sink. So all of that I'll probably treat them separate, one video per one task, just to make things just to make sure that the things are clear and everybody can understand that. So that will be all for this video. Thank you very much for watching. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I might ask you to do it if you consider so, just to make sure that you're not going to lose any of these videos. So yeah, thank you very much for watching. I will see you next time. Goodbye.